Welcome to this presentation on IBM Spectrum Protect Plus on Azure Marketplace. My name is Trishali Nayar and I'm an architect with this SPP team. Recently, we have released a new offering in Azure, which is based on the version 10.1.11. In the past, we were supporting version 10.1.7. So there are two options by which one can deploy this product. You can use a hybrid deployment or you can use an all-on-cloud deployment. Hybrid deployment means that you have an existing SPP server on premises and you deploy the vSnap into Azure. Whereas an all-on-cloud deployment means that you deploy both the SPP and vSnap server into Azure. SPP supports database workloads like DB2, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, MongoDB, etc. Similarly, you can also specify all your snapshot scheduling and retention. Let's say you want to have your snapshots to be run every 8 hours or daily. You can specify all of that. And you can also specify whether you want to retain these snapshots for 30 days or for whatever time frame. You can provide a replication target for your on-premises vSnap repository. And all this really helps you create a DR site solution that can be deployed to Azure. This offering is an infrastructure as a service IaaS offering, which means that we would support automatic deployment and configuration, but the end user will have to manage the patch installation, the upgrades, etc. on their own. So if anybody goes into the Azure Marketplace, you can search for this offering, IBM Spectrum Protect Plus free trial, and you will be able to see our offering. It's based on 10.1.11, like I mentioned. Another important link is this deployment guide, which is where we specify all of the different details of this offering in terms of what are the different configurations supported, what are the different options, what are the different troubleshooting tips that will help you. So please go look at this. And all on cloud typically means that you have a SPP server in Azure, you have a vSnap server in Azure, and then you have all of these databases in Azure, which you could just back up to this vSnap server, and everything stays in Azure. A hybrid deployment on the other side means that you have a corporate data center, you have a SPP server, and you have probably a vSnap server too on premises, and you have an vSnap server which you spin in Azure, a few databases in Azure, and now you can take a backup of these databases into your vSnap. And also these two vSnaps can be also replicated between an on and off premises. Two different options for deploying is an existing vNet and a new vNet. For an existing vNet, if it's an all-on cloud, it means that we would provision the SPP server and the vSnap into the existing Azure infrastructure. For a hybrid deployment, it would mean that you would provision your vSnap in the existing Azure infrastructure and you will connect to the existing on-prem SPP server, and this registration will kind of happen automatically. If we deploy into a new vNet for all on cloud, it means that you provision your new SPP server, your vSnap server into your new Azure infrastructure. And for a hybrid deployment, it would mean that you would provision your vSnap in the new Azure infrastructure and you would connect to the existing on-prem SPP server. But please note that you will have to manually register the vSnap into SPP. So this is also very important, like there are a few restrictions on what kind of VMs are required for the SPP server and the vSnap server. And please do ensure that availability of these VMs where you're trying to do the deployment is there. Otherwise, your deployment will fail. Moving on to blueprints. So as SPP users may know that blueprints really are sizing guidelines where it helps you decide what is really the vSnap size you require, what are the other parameters that are required over there in terms of deduplication, etc. So definitely recommended. Please, before you start a deployment, look at the deployment guide and look at the sizing guidelines. Post that, one can sign into the Azure account. You need to fill in the ARM templates and you should be able to do our deployment. A few of the different inputs, like there's a basics category, which means you specify the resource group, subscription details, your region, and also whether you want to do an all-on cloud deployment or a hybrid deployment, the SSH username, public key, passwords, and things like that. For the networking piece, like I mentioned earlier, you have to select your existing vNet or new vNet, and based on that, the parameters are there. Similarly, the bastion host IP, that means if there's an existing bastion, then you have to specify that. For the SPP server, you specify the IP if it's an existing vNet and you're doing a hybrid configuration. Similarly, you specify a username and password for your deployment. vSnap server, you need to specify the repository size, you need to specify dedupe, make use of the blueprints and decide on these things. And finally, a few other things like the server username, password have to be specified. Post this, you'll see a review plus create option where we will typically go and validate all the inputs that you gave to the ARM templates. And based on that, your deployment will start. And in less than an hour, you should be able to kind of see a deployment running. So I hope this was useful for you. I'll try to quickly show you how this looks like in Azure. So let's say you're logged on to your Microsoft Azure account, and in the portal, if you search for the Spectrum Protect Plus offering, then our offering will come up. Like I said, the version 10.1.11. The usage information plus support tab is very useful. It will point you back to the deployment guide, to the blueprints, the knowledge center, which will tell you all of the different details of SPP.